Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming into today's webinar. So we're now just gonna give some of our registrants 5 more minutes so people can still come in. And in the next 5 minutes, we're going to start our webinar for today. Thank you very much for coming in. And hello, everyone. Thanks again for coming here. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time it is where you are. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. So today, my name is Onyx. I'm your host for today. I'm that from International Trade Council. And today with us is Ms. Ranjani Rangan. She is the chairperson of the International Trade Council in Singapore. She is also the executive director of Changi Travel Services and director of Olympia Advisory. Ranjani is a seasoned MBA professional and finance expert with a 20 plus year track record of operator and advisor on a number of growth and restructuring initiatives. She has operating experiences and expertise in banking, payment services business, travel services, corporate secretarial, accounting, and travel and training companies gained from working for top global public and private companies. Having lived and worked in three continents, USA, UK, and Singapore, across the world, Ranjani is able to collaborate effectively across borders and cultures to unlock value for clients. So today she's going to share with us all important things you need to know in doing business in Singapore. At the end of our webinar, we're also going to have some time to answer any of the questions you may have. So as you can see at the right side of your screen, there's a Q&A tab right there beside the chats. So if there's any questions you have regarding her presentation, you can type in those questions. And then later on at the end of our webinar, we're going to answer them one by one. And if there's any questions that will not be answered due to time restraint of our program, do not worry, as all of your questions are noted, and our speaker will be able to get back to you later on. And you can also contact her directly in her contact details, which she will provide at the end of the presentation. So right now, once our speaker starts, you can see that there's a full screen um, icon right there at the presentation. So if the text is too small for your screen, you can actually click that full screen button so you can see a larger screen at your side. So without further ado, I will now give the microphone to our speaker, Ms. Ranjani Rangan.
Thank you very much, Onyx, for that very kind introduction. Hi, everyone. As Onyx mentioned, my name is Ranjini, and it gives me great pride and pleasure to actually be presenting on one of my favorite topics, Singapore. And so I thought, it'll be good for you to understand, and I'm sure there's an interest from all of you here as to, especially in a post-pandemic world, why is Singapore such an important place for you all to actually do business? And I'll be just walking you through that. As Onyx mentioned, if you have any questions, you can actually feel free to put it in the Q&A box. And at the end of the presentation, I'll be happy to answer that one by one. I'll also be giving you my coordinates at the end, so you will be able to actually reach out to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. All right. So again, thank you so much for taking time out during the day to attend this. So without further ado, let's start the presentation. Just one thing, if you all want to see the side of the presentation, I'm presuming all of you are in full screen mode right now. You can actually minimize that speaker tab so that you'll be able to actually see the whole presentation in full screen. And then once we go to the Q&A, you can bring it back up. Thank you. All right. So I thought before we go into actual Singapore, I thought it'll be quick to give you some quick pointers on our growth story here. As many of you have known, Singapore is almost a 60-year success story on from becoming a third world to actually right now being a first world country. So if you see from 1960 to 69, it was a very labor intensive period for Singapore. And in the 1970s, that's when a lot of investment started coming into the country. And we were very, very intensive on the skills and focused on that aspect of it. In 1980 to 1989, obviously, it was a very capital intensive period. There was a lot of foreign direct investment that was actually being encouraged to come into Singapore. And in 1990 to the 1999 period, very technology driven. That was when everybody was getting used to emails, computers, and Singapore was really at the top of the charts, and in the forefront of trying to make all this happen. Since the millennium happened, we've been all about knowledge and innovation, and I will be taking you through that in the course of the presentation. And I put this chart out here because Euromoney did a survey just before COVID, and if you can see. Some of the other European countries have been placed there. These countries have always been known to have good investments. I'm very proud to say Singapore was actually ranked number one as being one of the least risky countries for investments. So Singapore today, right? I mean, all of us have been, we've been going through unprecedented times, and every country has been going through their own challenges, jobs. It's just been a tough period for everybody across the board. So what we see in Singapore is our GDP is actually expected to grow between 4 to 6%. the government has been very quick to reinvent the wheel and have done a lot of digital initiatives to get a lot more FDI into Singapore. And we have actually put aside almost $100 billion, or almost 20% of our GDP, to counter the impact of the virus. Interestingly, there were more new business entities set up in Singapore despite the COVID-19 recession. So if you see in December 19, there was about 355,000. This is just for the month of December. And in December 20, we had 375. And this was the trend throughout the year between 19 and 20. And we have actually, by the International Institute of Management Development and Bloomberg, we were actually ranked as the most competitive economy and one of the most COVID resilient countries in the world today. Something that we are very, very proud of. And I'm sure a lot of countries have been having their own responses to COVID-19. Singapore has really been a role model for many of the countries to follow. And quickly, when the pandemic hit last year, the government actually was quick to support the workers. The key priority was to actually protect livelihoods and also protect self-employed people. And families and businesses and any of the affected sectors like tourism, aviation. These were the industries that were really affected, and they were given a lot of support to the extent that up to 75% of workers' salaries were actually protected and paid off by the government. So there were almost 2 billion that was pumped in to create close to 100,000 jobs in traineeships and training opportunities. And if you see that little box or the chart right there here, I think you will see the amount of financing supports. And this enhanced hiring was actually really good for foreign companies at that point looking to come here, because there was incentives up to 12,000 per worker that was actually provided by the government, and some of the support is still continuing as the pandemic rages on, and we are all looking towards recovery right now. So why is Singapore an ideal location? I'm sure many of you, some of you already know the country, some of you may not. So for the benefit of those who don't, basically our strategic location, and I'll show you that in my next slide. We have really one of the best airports. If any of you have come through Changi Airport, you can actually vouch for that. And we have been rated number one consistently by the World Bank for the ease of doing business. We are really politically stable. And if you all know Singapore, we are considered a fine city. Everything that you do wrong, you are actually fined. So therefore, corruption is something that is very little to none, and it's not tolerated in Singapore. We have very, very good IP protection laws. We are also an excellent financial center. There are attractive incentives for headquarters who actually want to set up here. There are flexible and friendly immigration policies. Very good professional and English-speaking workforce. I will touch on the free trade agreements later in more detail for you to understand the kind of agreements that Singapore has actually put forward with almost over 50 countries. And we have, foreign income exemption, very good tax framework, quality of life. I mean, this is something, as Ron had mentioned earlier, having lived in the UK and the US, and I'm back to Singapore. I'm actually Singaporean. I think, hands down, I think this country gives you the best of the Eastern and Western way of living, which is why many people who actually either move their businesses here or they choose to live in Singapore, they want to come here. We also have a strong legal system and very, very high degree of personal safety. I have 2 daughters. I can send them back home from tuition at 11 o'clock at night, and there's nothing to worry about. So as promised, I was showing you a little map. So you can see this is Singapore right here, and we are extremely well connected through Changi Airport for the rest of the world. And if you see here, the regional connectivity, we can actually reach 50% of the world's consumers within 6 hours. Okay, so why do we say that Singapore is your gateway to Asia? I'm sure you've heard this before, or if you have not, what is the reason, right? Okay, so some key pointers are we are a thriving financial center. So not only do we help you here, but generally anyone who has who wants to do business here, they also want to do business in the wider APAC region. We have a unique distinction of being home to more than 500 financial institutions. So whatever financial services you need here, you have it. We also have very deep and liquid capital markets. So literally that means if you need access to funding, not just here but also in Asia, this is the place to be. We are regarded as a wealth management hub. I'm sure you might have heard of us being a Switzerland of the East. Well, it is true in a way where you have a lot of high net worth wealth management funds that comes through Singapore, and therefore that gives you access to a lot of regional investment opportunities. Asia is actually projected to require more than 1.7 trillion of infrastructure investments, and therefore this actually facilitates the execution of the infrastructure financing to catalyze the projects in Asia. We also have an extensive supply chain network. So obviously, given our strategic location, it's a no-brainer that we are a regional and manufacturing distribution center in Asia. You would have heard about our airport, but actually our port accounts to 1/7 of the world's containers transshipment. As mentioned earlier, almost 6,000 flights pre-COVID used to pass through Changi Airport. We are all hoping for this to return, and given the way the vaccination rate is happening around the world, we are hoping to see some trajectory of there. Singapore companies also can partner with companies, foreign companies who are looking to come here, who have specialized services in logistics and payment solutions to actually offer solutions to everybody in the wider APAC region. Okay, so smart nation is a huge thing here. Digital, tech, smart nation, these are like really liked words in Singapore, and it's becoming more and more popular. And so if you're a startup that is tech enabled, then this is definitely the place to be. And Singapore is actually working very hard to build capabilities in smart devices, wireless communications, cloud infrastructure, and cybersecurity. We are also home to a lot of innovation platforms. You have hackathons, pitch competitions. We used to have these in real life pre-COVID. Now there's a lot of this happening over digital mediums, but it's been very, very successful. And therefore, the country in itself is very well positioned to partner, not just in Singapore, but in APAC. In fact, this little box right here, it shows you the My Info, the business. So you can actually, all of anybody who does a business here or they are a resident of Singapore, you actually get all of your personal details stored into this My Info. I've used it before to open bank accounts. And with Singapore going really digital these days, this gives you access, your AML checks, it really shortens the process in whatever that you need to do to get stuff open, to get your licensings, etc. So Singapore is really heading in the right direction in this space. We also have an extremely vibrant startup ecosystem. So if you see, the many startups who have come here have seen that they have access to many mentors, and we can actually put you in touch with some of the government agencies. The ITC, the International Trade Council, has very good relationships with the government trade agencies here, like Enterprise and EDB. So we can get you acquainted with mentors, partners, and investors. You can also actively engage in market research and test bedding. There are multiple resources that you can avail of that includes accelerators, incubators, networks, research labs, universities, you name it, we have it here. So I touched on very briefly on our international agreements. I think this is a key thing for anyone wanting to do business here. We are really one of the most open trading nations in the world, and therefore we are an ideal choice. If you see, we have almost 76 avoidance of double taxation agreements, which makes it very, very popular for companies, who have a business set up here and they are trying to actually, do business with more than 76 countries. We have investment guarantee free trade agreements and almost 23 free trade agreements. And if you see, it includes the continent. So ASEAN is like already 6 countries: USA, China, India, Sri Lanka, the Middle East, Australia, New Zealand, and the EU. I think the only continent that's still in the works right now is kind of Africa, but otherwise, and we are doing a separate one for UK after Brexit, and I'll explain that later. But Singapore is actually very, very well positioned with free trade and investment guarantees and double taxation agreements. And what are the advantages of some of this, right? So obviously, you will be able to compete in the prices. There is also transparency in terms of your customs processes. You get better market access, equal treatment from a local company in one of those markets. If you're a Singapore-based business, you'll actually be able to get access and equal treatment there. As I mentioned earlier, you will get IP protection and as well as better access to government projects. So some of the key free trade agreements. So you have the U.S. Singapore Free Trade that was signed. So this actually eliminates all tariffs for Singapore's exports to the U.S. You get a waiver of all the merchandise processing fee for Singapore originating products. You also get a tariff preference. You can safeguard market access, and you also get protection for Singapore investors and investments into the U.S. By doing this. So the EU-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, this was entered into force in November 2019, just before Brexit. So as I said, we're doing a separate one with the UK right now. But basically, 84% of Singapore exports into the EU would be entry duty-free. So it includes all these products there, your electronics, pharmaceuticals, petrochemicals, etc. And then for tariffs for any remaining products in your meat and seafood produce, fruits, textiles, and consumer goods will be done, should be effectively removed starting from 2022. It'll be progressively from the third to the fifth year. And actually, what is, the part there that says the ASEAN accumulation, any material that you source from ASEAN would be deemed as originating from Singapore. So this is a key factor when they actually put together the free trade agreement between EU and Singapore. So I see that a lot of you here are from India. So for benefit of those, I've included the India-Singapore Free Trade Agreement. So this actually gives you a tariff reduction and elimination of 81% of Singapore's exports to India, as well as it allows Singapore exporters. So Singapore and India have a huge import and export relationship. So by having a presence here, you'll actually be able to benefit from food products, plastics, electronics, pharmaceuticals, and mechanical appliances. And also there is an opportunity for Singapore-based service companies to build market expertise and grow internationally from here in some of these areas. Okay, so in Asia, right? Many of you guys know the key financial centers here were Singapore and Hong Kong in Asia. Now, I just thought I'll do a quick comparison to let you know how, while in recent times, I think these numbers have actually come down because of Hong Kong's recent issues in China. So, and in many of the ways, Singapore is actually very, very well positioned. Why Singapore is good and why we are having so much of FDI, especially in a post-COVID era. If you look at the charts, you'll be able to actually have a good indicator in that. All right. Okay, so this is a very, very interesting next few slides on the plethora of government grants and support that Singapore government actually provides to to companies and businesses that are looking at doing business in Singapore, right? So basically, if you are a startup or a brand new company here, you get, you have the SG Founder Grant, where you actually get up to $50,000. And then if you're a tech company, you actually have a startup SG Tech Grant. And the grant cap for this will remain at $250,000. And for proof of value kind of commercialization, it's at $500,000. And then you have accelerator grants, tech grants, which is actually to nurture startups who are looking to come here. So, and this is to help you to obtain new products, business financing, etc., as well as mentoring the startups, any operating expenses that you're looking to do here. You also have startup equity. So this is to actually, for very, very good startups that the government actually believes in or they are very interested in, you might even be able to sell to the government to take some stake in your startup and for you to grow from here, right? And then you also have SG Startup Infrastructure. This is to provide you with your office space and especially and give you stuff that you need to actually grow here. And then you have your financings. So you have your working capital loans, your fixed assets, your venture debt, trade loans, etc. Then you have your, talent grant. So you have all your work visas like your Entrepass, that is especially for new entrepreneurs who are actually looking to get here. It's a special visa where you need to actually have funding from a recognized VC or a business angel, and you hold the IP to the business. Then you have the T-Up. It actually supports local SMEs with research and scientists to develop innovative processes. And you will actually get a research scientist or an engineer who are studying in the local universities here to actually help you in your projects if you're a research company who's looking to come here. And then you have the Global Ready Talent Program. So this is actually local and overseas internships. So up to 70%. So if you actually hire students here, their monthly local internships is actually given back to you. And you also get very good management associate program support if you hire Singaporean people here to actually work with you. And then tech is actually something that is totally very good for actually technology companies who are looking to have their regional or global headquarters here. And you might even get up to 10 new EPs approved over 2 years who are looking to be part of your core team in Singapore. Okay, and then now we go to the mid stage. So this is productivity. So you have a lot of training and development grants here. You have tech skills accelerators. You get up to 70% of your fees covered, and then you also have adopting your tech solutions. So you can get automation support packages as well. But that is, but this all ends by 30th September for this tech solution grants. And then you have your operations. So you can actually purchase, for purchasing equipment, you get 90% of the purchase price. Working capital loans, you get up to 100,000. And then you get insurances. Tax exemptions are great ones. You get 75% exemption on your chargeable income. And please understand that it's only for business generated in Singapore. So any foreign businesses that you pass through Singapore, you're not actually taxable on it. And then you have human resources. They give you, if you want to send your staff for any kind of upgrading or training, 90% of your course fees actually taken care of. And then you also have training support packages, which I can explain more. If you have any interest, you can reach out to me separately on this. Now, if your company has decided that you're going to go overseas, right? You've done well in Singapore and now you want to go overseas. Singapore has even thought of that. So you get market readiness grants. So if you want to say after Singapore, you want to try or you want to set something up in Indonesia or you want to go to the Philippines, then you can actually get up to 70% of your eligible costs, purchasing assets, merger and acquisitions, insurances. Right now, here you have loans and insurance. So you have like enterprise financing schemes, temporary bridging loan programs, and then you have loan insurances, political insurance. So all kinds of schemes to also help you. Trade credit insurance. So if you're actually doing, you want to protect yourself against non-payment to your buyers. This is a insurance scheme that has been very popular, and because it gives you lifetime support of $100,000 per qualifying company. So some of the funded startups that you have here, right? So Grab is like your equivalent of your Uber. They were given, up to 4.5 billion in funding. And then Lazada is like your equivalent of Amazon in Singapore. They have been doing extremely well. So you do have Carousel is like your eBay equivalent here. My Republic is one of your virtual mobile phone operators. So you have very good startups that have actually been able to come here and do very, very well for themselves. So what type of business structures are there in Singapore? So generally the sole proprietor and the LLPs are more for local residents. What is most suitable for for foreigners is the private limited company structure. One good thing here is you can have 100% foreign shareholding, and it is actually suitable for businesses with projected growth. And as I mentioned earlier, you have limited liability protection. So you're protected to whatever that you put in as your share capital, and you're eligible for tax exemptions. So if you see, this is some of the compliance requirements that you need to take care of. Usually you would engage a company to help you with all this, where you need to have a company director, shareholder, your minimum share capital. You need to have a Singapore registered address, a company secretary, and then if it's less than $1 million in revenue, you don't really need to appoint any auditors, which is great. And then you have to hold your AGM, and these are some of the compliances that are fully taken care of by companies here. All right, and then some work pass options for if you wanted to come here as part of your business. Work permits and S pass, it's a quota system here, and it's more for basic to mid-level blue-collar workers. Employment pass is the most popular for white-collared employees who are actually to come here. You once you set something up here, you can actually apply for an EP against your company, or if you qualify, you can actually apply for an entrepreneur pass. And then for really top-tier gold-collar professionals, it is, you get personalized employment passes. All right. Now, Olympia Advisory is actually the business support arm of the ITC, based in Singapore, handling Southeast Asia. So we are actually a very boutique advisory, and we have extensive service offerings, as well as access to Singapore and globally based experience. We have excellent relationships, not just with trade councils, but local government agencies, chambers of commerce, and embassies. So if you need to actually meet with someone here from the government, local government, we'll be able to very much help you. Obviously, so very happy to talk to you through Olympia. All right. Now, if you are looking at actually coming here, you can actually contact us, and we will be able to do a full-fledged, all-encompassing Singapore incorporation package for you that includes your entire company incorporation, your 12-month secretarial registered office, your nominee director, your accounting, tax, and payroll, a bank account opening, and you'll also get free first-year ITC membership. This is exclusive to all the webinar attendees who are attending today. And plus, you don't really need to visit Singapore, and you can actually use your entity to be a regional HQ. Since it's all encompassing, you can actually be worry-free and just focus on marketing your business, and you will have complete peace of mind. All right. And then, and as I mentioned earlier, you will get free ITC membership for the first year. And because we are the local office for the International Trade Council, we've actually negotiated a lifetime 75% discount with the ITC for members who are actually looking to become ongoing members of the Trade Council. So happy to explain to you much more of the initiatives we've done quite a few trade missions here as part of the Trade Council, done business to business matching. And we've partnered with some very major events like the FinTech Festival, Montgomery, the Food Festival, IoT Asia pre-COVID. This will be ongoing, as the pandemic slowly starts to recede. All right. And for those of you who are actually looking to travel to Singapore in the near future, and because it's in a post-COVID world, things are so different. We've actually partnered with Changi Recommends, which is part of the Changi Airport Group, to give you a one-stop shop. So when you actually travel here, we not only will they be able to help you with flight bookings, but as well as your hotel, COVID tests, your Trace Together. Singapore has actually done this Trace Together token system. So we'll be able to actually help you with all of that once travel reopens, and you can feel free to reach out to me at any time when you decide to travel here. All right. This is our team. So we've got some partners in different markets, and as well as working with a really great technology vendor who would be able to actually help us. So you would actually have access, if you decide to go with Olympia, you'll actually have access to all of your company information through a great technology platform while having the personalized services as well. All right. So this is services at a glance, and happy to take any questions on Singapore right now, and feel free to post your questions under the Q&A box, and thank you for listening in.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Ranjani, for that wonderful presentation. So everyone, it's now our time to answer any of the questions you may have. So if you have questions, I would like to request you to write those in the Q&A tab. It's just beside the chat box, the chats tab right there. There's a Q&A tab at the right
Okay,
side of the
let me
screen.
go through the questions right now. What is sentiment regarding work from home culture? I think, thanks, Paresh, for your question. I think it's really changed in a post-COVID environment here. I believe a lot of companies previously, where they were not really looking at working from home, or employers were a little bit averse, especially more Singapore-based companies have really opened up. And the biggest bank in Singapore, DBS Bank, has actually moved to a permanent 60-40 work culture. So I think we have really moved in the right direction, or actually sped up in the direction in this regard, I guess. And let me go from the bottom, right? We're exploring to start a lab. This is from Chem India for offering our new techs. Okay, that's wonderful. I will, let me post my email address here, and you guys can reach out to me. Hang on. .com. You can either reach out to me at my Olympia email or my trade council email. So either one would work, right? Okay. So you can actually contact me if you want to take down my email, or if you want to get more interest, there is a QR code there. If you see on the website, you can actually submit your information there as well on your interests, and I would be able to get that information exactly to my email as well. Thank you. What type of business we can do in SG? Actually, Fatima, this it depends on what you would like to do. But if you want to, you want to contact me, we can actually have a call, and I can discuss with you anything from technology to if you're looking at starting e-commerce, healthcare, manufacturing, or distribution. These are some of the very, very popular companies that actually come to Singapore. Payment services, fintech, etc. So feel free to have a chat with me on this. Bhavtosh, yeah, I'll be happy to share these slides with you. Just reach out to me, and I'm sure, or we can, through the ITC, send a copy of the slides to those who have attended the presentation today. Dr. Mysore, thank you. Can you open your branch office? Yes, definitely you can. Feel free to, again, my QR code is there, or my email, I've given it above. Feel free to reach out to me, and we can actually get you, get you that information. All right. I think a recording of the webinar, yes, I think ITC would be sending this out to those who attended, so you can actually go through the webinar at leisure as well later. Are there any grants from the, yes, so you would have for manufacturing in general, yes, and for productivity, there are grants available. Maybe Mr. Anand, if you want to contact me, maybe we can take this offline and I will be able to give you more information. But yes, a short answer to that is yes. Any other questions that you might have?
Someone actually posted his question at the chats.
Which one? Where is that?
Mr. Harry Pudyal, he's asking how about the procedure to
Oh,
open.
there's a lot of there's a lot of private chats here. Hang on, let me look through here. Okay. From Mr. Hari, I think, how about the branch for Nepalese companies, Ranjini? Yeah, Mr. Hari, sure, you can actually open up a branch office here. There is no distinction from Nepal or India or any of the markets here. Happy to take this offline. Again, you can also leave me some initial details. What might help is for those of you who are actually interested, if you actually go to the QR code there and just fill in some basic information from me, I'll be able to actually understand a little bit of what you're doing in your business. So when I reach out to you, it'll be a lot more productive conversation. So request you to actually fill in that quick. It's a very quick. It's hardly will take you a minute or two to fill in the form on the QR code, and that will help a lot. And Mr. Kumar says, yeah, if I open a company in Singapore, what are the chances of getting investment? Now, once you're here, we can actually put together a plan. So typically for any governmental support, you will need to have 30% local shareholding, which we can help you with proper exit clauses in place. But it is something that you'll have to keep in mind. And then we can actually, with the business plan, we can actually go to the government and see if you'd get some kind of an investment. There are also investment firms that we actually work with, whom we can make introductions to, and then see if we'll be able to get something through that. Right. As for charges, I'll be happy to take this offline as well and see if there is something that we can work together. I would be sending out an exclusive webinar package for those of you who are keen, and then we can take it from there, depending on the needs that you have for your business. Right. So can we get your email? I think I've put my email, some in my private chats. Hope all of you got my email here. It's also on that little contact box right there. It's info@olympia.com. if you want to take that down. Again, as I said, you can also go to the QR code and fill in some information for me. That will help a lot. Let me see if there's any. Um, okay, so Dr. Anjani has asked about very new company in India for doing business with B2B public relations and brand communications. Sure, sir, I'll be very, very happy to actually guide you on this. Please do reach out to me, or I'll be reaching out to you after this call, and happy to have a one-on-one session with you and guide you on this. Any other? Is there any other Q&A, Onyx, or that came in?
Um, have you seen Mr. Kumar's question? He asks, if I open a company in Singapore, what are the chances of getting investment for my
Where is
firm in
that?
Singapore? In the chats. It's in the chats.
Wait a minute.
Oh, he
What?
also asks, what are the recurring charges every year if I register in Singapore?
Yes, that's what I've said. I'll reach out to that on a separate level. Okay. This is Harichandra. I think, what was the other question? I'm not able to see that. Yes, the webinar will be posted. I think I've more or less answered all the questions, I think. Any other questions that you guys might have? What I would suggest is, just so that I'll have, I for me it's completely complimentary for me to come and guide you guys on a one-on-one. So if you wanted to just go to the QR code and just fill out that form for me, it'll make it very easy for me to actually come back and have an understanding of what you're doing, and then I'll be able to be prepared when we actually speak. So that would be great, if you can do that.
That's right. And I also see Dr. Mysori also just posted a new question in the Q&A tab.
Hang on a second. Let me go back to the Q&A tab. Oh, would government encourage in providing and loans? Yes, sir. That's what I had mentioned earlier, that for a lot of this, you can actually have one with the 30% local shareholding, and that is something we can actually help to provide or introduce, and there'll be proper exit clauses in place. So we can actually talk through and then see given your company and what you're trying to do, you can see how would some of these initiatives be relevant to you, and pick out those that are very suitable to what you are trying to do.
Perfect. So I guess if there's any more questions you may have, you can still type it in now. And then if there's any of you who would like to reach out to Ranjani,
Yes.
again, her email is already in the screen. It's also in the chats and in the Q&A tab. You
Yeah.
can reach out to her to also post your questions in her QR code.
Yeah, and I'll encourage you to also drop me a quick just note on that QR code and fill in that, because it'll really help me when I'm actually reaching out to you, because it'll be very tailor made to what you're trying to do. What will
That's
be
right.
good is to know whether you're trying to just have a virtual presence here, to have a gateway to Asia if you're looking at setting something up, or you want to have a physical presence here. Do you need office space, work passes, those kind of information that will help me to sort of come back to you with a more personalized answer to some of the questions that you might have. Yes, you can actually get a local SIM card. Once you've registered here, you will get a local bank account, and you would also you'd be able to get a mobile SIM card that you can actually use, and that's what a lot of foreign companies who are settled here, but they don't have any staff or anybody here, but they actually use it to get all of their outside of their home country, especially India, business that comes through the Singapore bank account. They actually would be able to get a local SIM card, and you would be able to use that in India. E-commerce, Mr. Sanjay had asked about, as in India we do not have, is there something like this? Mr. Bharadwaj, because you're a foreign company based in India, the sole proprietorship here is only for Singapore citizens and residents. So you would have to actually the private limited structure is what is most suitable for foreigners who are trying to come from abroad. So typically, the sole proprietor, or what's allowed for sole proprietors, is for the locals. So hope that answers your question, Mr. Joshua. I think I've answered your question, Mr. Joshua. Thank you. Mr. Sanjay, please let me know if there's any scope for e-commerce. Yes, you do. E-commerce it's definitely grown exponentially in the last 1.5 years during COVID. Many companies have actually gone into food delivery, buying and selling online. So, but it's still a growing business here. Pre-COVID, the piece of the pie was really small, and everyone is getting into the tech bandwagon right now. So I think this is a great time to come in for this space in Singapore at the moment. So if there is, do you have any other questions, anybody?
Someone asks from the chat.
There is also a very special webinar pricing that we are doing, but the reason I didn't put it up there is because some of you may have different needs. Like, you may want to come here, you need work passes to come here. Some of you may not. Some of you may already have a friend in Singapore who can act as your local director. So you may not need to use a firm to have a local director. So unless I know your individual situation, I didn't want to just put a one size fits all kind of a pricing. But yes, for webinar attendees, it'll be priced very exclusively. So again, I ask you to use the QR code and reach out to me there so that I'll have an understanding of what you're actually trying to do here. Is Singapore offering citizenship? Well, there is a pathway for it. So if you actually open a business in Singapore, you would be able to. This is from Mr. Rakesh. I think, yes, you can. You will start out with applying for either an entrepass or an employment pass. After 2 years of holding your work visa, or 3 years, you can actually go ahead and apply for a local permanent residency. And then we would be able to apply for citizenship after 2 years or 3 years. So generally, the pathway is about 6 years if everything goes right. And if it's a niche business and you're able to show that you're contributing to the Singapore economy, and what are you bringing to the table, generally we would be able to put that across. So if you see our services there, it's actually like a one-stop shop. So we do everything from immigration to right from all your advisory that you need here. So happy to walk you through that process. If that's your intention and what you're looking to do here. Any other questions that you might have? Very good questions coming in. Thank you all for all the interest and the questions that's coming in. No more? We still have about 5 minutes. I'm happy to take any more questions.
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
so Mr. Lloyd has asked, hang on, thanks. I see the nominee director service. Is this mandatory? Mr. Rajiv, yes. So in Singapore, it is a mandatory service to, if you're a foreign company, to have a resident Singapore PR or an employment. Generally, employment pass would have to get an approval, but yes, for Singaporean PR, it is mandatory for somebody to be a director. So we can provide that for you, somebody who's qualified, or if you have a friend here, you could use your friend as well to be your director. So yes, we could help you with that, but typically an sole proprietorship and an LLP is more for the locals, but we can definitely talk through that. So the most common structure, or the safer structure for foreigners who are going to do business here, where you have very limited exposure and liability, would be the private limited structure. All right, and then we are a PCB company with its operations. Is there an option for this structure? Yes, so you can actually, this is from Mr. Lloyd. You can actually set something up here, and then if you are actually hiring someone here, you could actually go into a JV with your Singapore company. So it'll protect you, it'll protect the other company. And yes, that is a possibility where you can have a partner, and maybe that other company that you're going into partnership with, they could be a Singaporean local shareholder for all the grants and all the support that you're looking to get as well. So something for you to think about. What about kids schooling? Okay, this is from Mr. Yomesh. Yes, once you're here, there is a. Okay, so the Singapore school system is the government school system. That's where 80% or 85% of Singapore kids go to school here. It's very robust. It's probably one of the the top school system in the world. But unfortunately, the priority is for Singaporeans and permanent residents who are based here. So once you're here, and then you apply for your employment pass, we could try to get you in. The fees will be slightly higher than what a Singaporean or a PR would pay. There is also international school options. You have the American school, British. I mean, you have a whole suite of international schools who actually have their presence right now. So if you're already in the GCC, Mr. Yomesh, you can actually avail and look into some of the international schools that are here. All right. Hope that answered all your any other questions that you might have. Did I miss any question? I hope I've tried to answer as most of it as I can.
Yeah, I think most of the posted questions have been answered. So if any of you any more questions, feel free to type them in.
Yeah, it's okay. So just to give you all some sense, it's Singapore's life is really, you have great quality of life here, right? So I lived in the US for almost 10 years, and when I had very very young children, by choice I decided to move back. I was actually working for a bank, Wells Fargo. I transferred with the bank when I came back, and it was like the best decision I've made in my life. And the reason for that is, not only could I, as a woman, I think as a mother, I could have a career, and also you actually have, when I said the best of the East and the West, and you get other benefits like having a domestic live-in helper here. So it's really first world in terms of quality of life, infrastructure, and what you have access to. But you also get a lot of Eastern benefits, like you have a live-in helper to come and stay with you, somebody there to take care of so many things in the house. I think for many families, that's a big plus. So a lot of friends of ours, I'm a Singaporean, I'm born and brought up here, over 4 generations have lived here. But when I speak to some of my expat friends who are from India here, they absolutely love it, especially those who have moved back from the US and other markets. They actually really, really love it because of the quality of life, easy access to a lot of things that is Indian or Western. And then you also get access to, but then at the same time, all the banks, as I said, and all the Western countries way of living is all here. So that way, Singapore is really, really up on the charts. And that's why a lot of people love to come here. And pretty easy for y'all to settle in, right from housing to getting a work visa to trying to do business here around the region. So from what I understand, a lot of Indian companies, they actually have their head office, or they do the Indian business is India, but any business they do outside of India, they route it through the Singapore company. So usually that's how it's structured here.
Great. So I guess all of their questions have been already answered by this time
Sure.
now. So
All
once
right.
again, yep. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Yes, thank
And
you. Thank you very, very much. Oh, there's one more question that just popped in. One second.
oh
Oh,
yes,
thank you. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Really appreciate that comment, Dr. Meiser. Very encouraging. Again, and thanks to all of you for taking the time to attend. Again, my request is please go into the QR code, fill in some info, so I'll have a look if you're really keen. Happy to have a one-on-one call with you and give you more insight. All right, appreciate it, and thank you. Stay safe. Hope things will get better, and everybody, we are all able to see each other soon in person, rather than through Zoom, I guess, or through this kind of virtual platforms. Thank you.
that's right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ranjani. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming, and stay safe, everyone.
Yes,
Goodbye.
stay safe. Thank you.